There was so much global hope in the early part of the century when, after a Russian NATO summit, President Vladimir Putin took part in a joint press conference with the NATO Secretary, then George Robertson, and the Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. And then all we have to do is look at the economics. In 1999, there were 24 rubles to the dollar. In 2024, there are 115 rubles to the dollar, or 150 on the black market if you don't have friends in the right places. What Mr. Putin has presided over, or what Putinism has presided over, is a collapse in Russia's reputation. That may also be a collapse in Russia. Now, the collapse, lots of collapses here. It's a pack of cards. The collapse of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria undeniably weakens Russia's position in the Middle East and dents Moscow's broader international standing. But how much? Is it enough to topple this house of cards completely? Assad has been a key ally, and he's allowed Russia to project power in a region through its military bases at Tartus and Khmeimim, as well as its role in propping up his government during the Syrian civil war. Assad's fall, particularly given the amount of money that has been injected into Syria and the amount of effort that's been injected into Syria by Putin, brings questions closer to Moscow itself, illustrating the fragility of personalist regimes when their credibility erodes. Now, as people who follow my channel will know, I don't believe that the Putin regime has been headed by Putin himself for a long time. It's headed by factions who use Putin as an icon of stability, mostly for the domestic audience. For Vladimir Putin, for the image of Vladimir Putin, for this icon, Assad's fate is both a global and a domestic cautionary tale. Globally, the loss of Syria as a sphere of influence signals the limits of Russia's reach, especially at a time when its military is bogged down in Ukraine. Domestically, Assad's swift fall demonstrates how a once unshakable ruler can collapse under the weight of military defections, popular discontent, and external pressures. And that is a warning for Russia. It echoes potential vulnerabilities in Russia, particularly following the Wagner mutiny, which exposed cracks in the regime's authority and highlighted the level of disillusion within the military, which is high and remains high. Historically, revolutions in authoritarian states, from Tsarist Russia to the Arab Spring, follow a pattern: a loss of legitimacy, cracks in the elite loyalty, and public discontent reaching a tipping point. Now, Netanyahu in Israel is playing on that pattern. It only takes a little push. And Assad's demise could resonate with ordinary Russians dissatisfied with their own leadership, especially as economic hardships mount under sanctions, the difficulty of getting butter, absurd, and the protracted war in Ukraine drains resources and invites anxiety. Who's going to be conscripted next? Can you pay for things which you want to buy outside Russia? If Russians perceive Putin as increasingly out of touch, his aura of invincibility, critical to maintaining his grip on power, could fade rapidly. If Russians perceive that Putin is no longer active, whether dying or dead or simply irrelevant, then that process of disillusion is quicker. There are key differences, of course. Unlike Syria, Russia has no organized armed opposition. and its state apparatus remains robust. Yet history shows that even strong regimes can implode when military loyalty wanes or internal divisions deepen. Putin's decision to offer Assad asylum rather than to face the fates of Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi may hint at his awareness of these risks. The end of Assad's rule, while not directly presaging the collapse of Putin's rule, underscores the tenuous nature of autocratic power. It suggests that the collapse of a personalist system, though often unpredictable, occurs with startling speed, 1 week in the case of Assad, when external pressures and internal discontent align. Now, whether this will trigger Putin's downfall or merely alter Russia's global strategy remains speculative, but the parallels are striking, and if I can see them, other people can see them. And by other people, I mean people in Russia. For the Kremlin, I think this is an ominous time.